Express Media acknowledges that this event is taking place on the stolen lands of the Wurundjeri and Bunurong peoples of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to the traditional custodians of all the lands from which our readers have come and written their work from, and from the lands that we are on today. We acknowledge that First Nations people are the traditional custodians of this country, whose cultures are among the oldest living cultures in human history. We pay respect to the elders of these communities, past and present, and extend that to emerging community leaders. We recognise that sovereignty was never ceded and that colonisation is an ongoing process. It was, is, and always will be Aboriginal land. Okay. Hi, I'm Adalia. I'm the editor of VoiceWorks. Welcome to welcome to Brunswick Mechanics Institute, where we are, who are our lovely hosts for this evening. Just a couple of housekeeping notes before we get started. Magazines are on sale at the table at the front. I think there might be some card reading issues, but they're there. We also have some little packs that we've started that are a new thing, so they're all themed out. One of them is ones that I've picked, and I've picked them purely based on my own personal relationship to them. So I think one of them is the first issue that I bought, one of them is the first issue that I edited in, another one is the first issue I was the head editor of. I can't remember what the fourth one is. So you can have that little tour through Adalia Way. But there's also all kinds of really amazing packs you can get, including some mystery packs. We also have drinks for sale at the bar, alcoholic and non-alcoholic. If you take an alcoholic drink, you cannot go outside with it. There are bathrooms. There's an accessible bathroom and 2 gender-neutral bathrooms that are all down the hallway past the bar. We have the amazing Glenda Judd interpreting tonight's event. Thank you, Glenda. And also, obviously, as you may have seen and heard, our amazing designer Selena is screen printing VoiceWorks merch. So if you brought something to get screen printed, or if you didn't, you can take off an item of clothing. It's a sexy game at a child-appropriate way. It's really cool. We'll be doing that around. Cool. Okay, now I'm going to open my speech. Sorry. Cool. Over the last few months, I have been refamiliarising myself with falling over. I don't remember when I stopped falling over, or rather when falling over stopped being an insignificant everyday event, but now when I fall, there's a shock that feels like it bounces from my heart to my stomach to wherever I've made contact with the ground, and then back up to my ears, which ring. The reason I'm eating shit again is that, like many others, so many that there is not only an international roller skate shortage, but a subreddit dedicated to the slow shipping of one particular brand, I took up roller skating over lockdown. I'm probably the most hobby-oriented person I know, both in that I cycle through a lot of different hobbies, and in that I approach these hobbies with an unparalleled level of research and urgency. Since March 2020, I've taken up sewing, resulting in a Molly Goddard adjacent pink tulle gown, crochet, 2 somewhat upsetting plush toys, Warhammer, an ombre night-haunt warband, roller skating, a sprained wrist, doll repainting, a cowgirl that sits on my desk, and now sewing again, this time a patchwork cord set. I have watched hundreds of hours of incredibly niche YouTube content and created an Instagram Explore feed that is absolutely incoherent. Perhaps because of the gig economy hellscape we are living in, perhaps because I am a creative, I instinctively imagine what it would be like to turn these hobbies into work, either by making them some form of side hustle or by writing about them. Since announcing the theme for this new issue, Reflex, I have imagined poignantly shoehorning roller skating into my editorial. I might write about feeling my body get stronger, about why I've never really enjoyed physical activities before. I might write about how I found recent news cycles really difficult and about how falling or nearly falling jolts my brain from its spiral. I might write about rewatching Whip It. I might write about the sensation of gliding a smooth, controlled flight. Maybe I should have. Having mostly written about the traumatic parts of my life, I feel weirdly protective of the joys and banalities. I sometimes feel sad when I see people writing about their hobbies, like they've lost a part of themselves that used to be their own. Writing isn't inherently a loss. If I believed that, why would I edit? But I think it can be when it is unnecessary, perfunctory or shoehorned, which editorials and speeches almost always are. What I'm saying is the best writing feels somehow like the product of a reflex, like it was breathed out, be it softly and smoothly or in a wall of flames. You'll hear what I mean in a second. But before our readings begin, I have a lot of people to thank. I would like to thank Lucy Hamilton, who was our General Manager for much of last year, and Jessie Oliver, who has already filled her very big shoes with kindness and compassion. I'd like to thank Jess Layton, our Communications and Administrative Coordinator, and especially our creative producer, Magenta Sheridan, for all the work that she's put into this incredible launch. I may be on the microphone, but I did not do this. I would like to thank Mira Schlossberg and Michael Sun, who preceded me and Selena as the editor and designer team. I would like to thank everybody who has been a part of EdCom over the past 12 months. So if you were on EdCom, can you please stand up? So there's Madison Brake, Claire Cow, Lucy Carrozza, Jocelyn Chan, Karina Daliwal, Zoe Douglas Kinghorn, Abigail Fisher, Loretta Flack, Lou Garcia Dolnick, Maddie Godfrey, Amy Green, Rory Green, Pip Grills, Isabella Gillifalori, Lejane Hirani, Wenjuan Lee, Romy McCoy, Claire Miller, Emily Osborne, Shivani Prabhu, Danny Silva Soberano, Anita Salak, Carly Stone, Alison Tilby, Fred Von Yorgs, Lin Ling Wan, Michelle Wang, Sana Wei, Jess Sinoni, Annie Zhang, and Amelia Zhu. Thank you! It's running a volunteer organisation and volunteering for something like VoiceWorks is always a big commitment and always a real privilege to get to work with these people, but especially during lockdown when everything was happening remotely and I was just running a lot of 30-person Zoom calls trying to make a magazine. It was really amazing having such kind and generous and talented people behind me. Finally, I would like to thank all of our fantastic writers. I learned so much about writing and the world from myself and from you. Sorry, about writing in the world and myself. I learned about myself. I don't learn from myself. Sorry. Reflex is the first issue since 2019 that has launched in person. The last one, Hum, was a karaoke launch that maybe 20 people came to. The mics weren't working, possibly because of my attempts to introduce reverb to them. So I MacGyvered my phone into a microphone that would run through my laptop and out into the speaker system, which did technically work enough for people to feel obliged to use it, but it did also create so much feedback that it was eventually abandoned. This launch is much bigger and more ambitious, and the tech is much better, but I hope that some of you still feel like you could get up and sing for one another unmiked. Okay, so with that out of the way, we're going to start having some readings. So our first readings is from Krishna Nathan reading Mango from As If, which was our first issue to launch during lockdown in April of 2020. That was our Animal Crossing launch. So Krishna Nathan is a current medical student whose writing explores the dynamics of being a second-generation immigrant, as well as power imbalances within relationships, such as with parents and children. Give it up for Krishna.
Hello? Yes, okay. Okay. Okay, cool. So I'll read Mango? Yes. Okay. If you ever check the fruit basket of any Sri Lankan family, you will find bananas and oranges and apples. And at the top of this sweet, fragrant hill are mangoes, teetering and wobbling, ready to roll down the rainbow into grasping hands at the slightest exhale of a touch. Mango comes from a Tamil word, mange, technically mange in Tamil letters, or unripe fruit. Kamadeva, technically Kamadeva in Tamil letters again, or Cupid, would twine his arrows with the leaves of mangoes to anoint them with love. Their blissful taste, their indelible stain on the heart. My dad would suck on these mangoes until the pulps coated his teeth, the color of summer leaves dancing on the dusk's horizon, their juices making his skin shine like shivering dew on grass. When my mom was tired, my dad would drive to roadside vendors and mountain their mangoes into his trunk before driving back, and he would place those sunset mangoes one by one into my mother's grasping hands. To be honest, I don't like mangoes at all. My parents would yell at me to eat them. They would leave dripping gold slabs on my plate and try to guilt me into eating them by saying all the other brown kids like to eat them. But I preferred the taste of strawberries and peaches and grapes. That's it.
Also, he's a doctor now. Thank you, Dr. Krishna. Next up reading, we have Lily Montgomery Primer reading Carving Through Concrete with a Butter Knife from Butter. Lily Montgomery Primer is coming to terms with having a physical body and with what to do with it. Give it up for Lily.
Yeah, and now the physical body is on stage, so we're going to cross that bridge. Thank you, Adalia. Was also my editor during the process. So this is Carving Through Concrete with a Butter Knife. The kitchen table is what we orbit around. It's the heart of the home. It's the space that we've carved out for ourselves, and it's the sanctum of safety in a cold and loud world, and it's where we come to break our bread or bones together. Sure, the world is your oyster, but first you've got to find that right place to put that first grain. They call it an irritating object. And from that, carve out a little life for yourself, one in which you can survive the calcified coffin. Fill it with what you crave and filter out the rest. I will carve my world into a kinder place, and it will not be by accident. Though you'll need a sharpened knife and thickened hands to shuck your way through this one. Sunlight streaming through the kitchen window, and I'm glad for it. I wake up only half an hour late this morning, dragging the body and the feet up the stairs to the kitchen, standing at the sink, looking out the window, waiting for the kettle to boil. I breathe out. I put 3 spoons of coffee, a spoon of sugar, another spoon of coffee into the mug. But the thoughts creep in despite the productivity. Do you feel useless when you are not carving? Do you feel the weight of your idle hands? But do you not already feel like you take too much? And yet you ask for more? You claw for more, you carve more, you take more, become more. The kettle switches off. Do you think you can ever carve enough? Do you think the shadow of what you've carved could eclipse you entirely? I fill the mug too full again. Would that even be enough? I pick up the cup, and the day begins. I slide on through into the garden and sit down to breakfast. A coffee, a cigarette, a sacred routine of the morning, a quiet moment of reverie, like glass, before it's pierced by heading out. Every day is another day. I have to get up and carve out the world for myself. And some days it feels like all I have is a butter knife. Some days I don't bother wearing my glasses because I don't want to see any more than what's right in front of me. The kitchen table, the kitchen window, the garden, and now here. So anyway, I feel like a fool for not seeing you coming, but no, I don't have my Mikey. Can I just slip you the cost of the fare and get off at the next stop?
Thank you, Lily. Next up, we have Sanjana Kapoor reading an excerpt from A Swifty's Journey from Divine. Sanjana Kapoor is a part-time writer and a full-time Bollywood fanatic. Give it up.
Hi everyone. I just want to thank VoiceWorks for publishing pretty much like an essay I wrote on why I love Taylor Swift so much. And a really big shout out to my editor Jess, who really brought this piece to life. The Folklore Era 2020. My phone buzzed as the receptionist at Specsavers opened the door. She offered me a small smile, raised a thermometer to my forehead, waited for the beep before pointing to the sanitizer dispenser. Her white blouse was tucked into her pencil skirt, and her hair scraped into a tight bun, not a strand out of place. One regular sunglasses and one pair of anti-reflective scratch-resistant reading glasses, she asked. Yep, that's the one, I replied. My phone buzzed again. It was a message from my best friend Riddy. Have a seat on the blue chair, I'll be with you in a moment. I glanced back to see a girl wiping the chair clean. The smell of air freshener and detergent was almost suffocating. My Converse squeaked on the polished floor as I made my way towards her, leaving a trail of dusty footprints. I unlocked my phone and scrolled through the chain of texts. Taylor had dropped a surprise album. I didn't bother untangling my headphones as I skipped out of the shopping center. My hands shook with excitement as I opened Spotify and saw the black and white album cover. Taylor stood alone, minuscule compared to the misty forest that surrounded her. I chose the first track, a song aptly titled The One. The casual profanity in the opening line almost stopped me in the middle of the road before the ringing of the traffic lights jolted me awake. On my walk home, I listened to Taylor tell me about a one-that-got-away romance over a breezy soundscape. The piano was bouncy at first, but Taylor's soft vocals and persistent questions left me with a wistful smile. The stripped-down production and almost muted percussion drenched my neighborhood roads in sepia. Taylor spoke to me like an old friend, reminding me of my childhood swing, my faded blue jeans, my school camps. As I passed by rusty street signs and bent mailboxes, I reminisced about my rapid dashes to the bus stop, my school shoes hopping on the cobblestones and my lunchbox thumping against my back. I wondered if this cycle would repeat the next semester I started university. I couldn't remember the last time I walked this slow. The autumn wind tousled my hair and lulled me forward into cinematic stories of love triangles and disillusionment as the album transitioned into third-person narration. Taylor whispered secrets about lonely summers and small towns and nudged me to remember people I had long forgotten about. She gently plucked at my buried what-ifs, begging me to rethink memories of my expired friendships. I couldn't help but walk the long way home. The Lover Era, 2019. When Lover came out, I changed my posters to accompany the new pastel theme and dyed the tips of my hair pink and blue to match the album cover. My Year 12 exams ended, and Taylor gave me a bittersweet track list about moving on to something new, while still glancing at the past every now and then. When I listened to the heart-thumping I Think He Knows, I daydreamed about what my first relationship would be like. When Taylor sang about leaving a past lover in Cornelia Street, I wondered if I'd feel the same after my first heartbreak. Taylor handed me a kaleidoscope of my future moments, letting me gaze before switching tracks and painting a completely different tale. Lover reunited me with Riddy. She returned to Melbourne for her first year at university. We listened to the album while making dinner together in her apartment, swaying and smiling as Taylor sang about her indelible love. I remember leaning against the kitchen counter, watching Brittany knead the flour as we playfully argued over the best song on the album. I was cutting the potatoes into uneven chunks, my shoulders knocking Brittany's each time she reached to dip her fingers in the bowl of water. Taylor's voice hung around us on an endless loop, sparking conversations about what our lives would look like in 10, 20, maybe 30 years from now. Paper rings and the implication of wedding vows in the title track spiraled our conversation into a new direction. Taylor's poetic hooks fluttered in the air and festooned the apartment's bare walls with hope and wonder. Later that night, I pulled out my notebook and wrote my favorite lyric from each song. I hugged my knees to my chest and glanced at Reddy, fast asleep, our tangential chatter and terrible singing still echoing in my mind. I turned the page and wrote my own. The Reputation Era, 2018. Taylor took a 3-year break after 1989. She disappeared from the public light and seemed to take everything that reminded me of her. My friendship group dissolved. One friend moved school, Reddy left for India, and the others stopped talking to me. Taylor had woken up one day and decided to walk out of my life. I tried listening to her older albums, but the lyrics that I chanted on train rides and danced to at sleepovers only reminded me that I was alone. As I tumbled into my senior years of high school and my parents' expectations grew about the ATAR I would achieve, the songs I'd loved to pieces didn't comfort me like they used to. Instead, they felt childish and repetitive, and I wondered if I was outgrowing Taylor's music. Taylor completely reinvented herself when she unleashed Reputation. The ruthless lyrics, the EDM choruses, the hair-raising bass drops, the nods to alcohol, it was all so different from the Taylor I remembered. She had completely torn her innocent good girl image to reveal the mastermind businesswoman she was, twisting her public disputes and rumors into an alter ego that formed the perspective of the album. I hesitated after hearing the snarling lead single, Look What You Made Me Do, favoring the headlines that promised the album would fail. Taylor tossed my doubts aside as I plunged headfirst into the steely tracks that spelled out her vengeance plan for those who had wronged her. Taylor's us against the world attitude convinced me that I didn't need the friends that I'd left. Her detached and aloof persona matched my dreary Mondays and the monotonous classes where I walked up and down the same hallways. The snarky one-liners and punchy choruses became my pep talks each time I fell short on a SAC or practice exam, urging me to give my senior years my all before walking away. Reputation was the album I had to see live. The stuttering bass of Ready For It grew louder and louder until the stadium burst into a ribbon of colour, and Taylor walked out onto the stage. I remember standing there, frozen. The Taylor I had smiled with, cried with, danced with, was in front of me. The Taylor who had a song for every situation, a lyric for every moment I experienced was here. My Taylor was singing to a sold-out stadium, but I was convinced that every time she smiled in my direction, it was just for me. Taylor held out her hand as if trying to draw me into her life. I went from sneering real friends and this is why we can't have nice things to blushing in gorgeous to playing a glacial manipulator and I did something bad. It felt like I knew every moment of her life and she knew everything about mine. The pounding of the drums felt like a second heartbeat. The lights were blinding, but Taylor's voice sounded as familiar as it had always been. One moment, I was 8, singing You Belong With Me with my little sister in the backseat of the car, and the next, I was 14, crying to clean after a bad day at school. As Taylor remixed and mashed her old songs with the latest ones, the past decade flashed in my eyes. It was everything I had ever dreamed of. I wanted to capture the night and live in it forever. Thank you.
That piece was actually submitted originally before Folklore had come out, and then by the time we were reading it, Folklore had come out. So we were like, it's fate, man. We're meant to publish. And there was multiple Taylor Swift pieces that was sent that time, and Folklore hadn't come out. And just a lot of people, it was in the air. Okay, we have a reading from Shivani Prabhu. Reading from an excerpt from The Untricking of Auntie Gari, which is in this current issue, Reflex. Shivani is a writer and editor who is downloading and deleting astrology apps, incessantly rewatching her favourite films, and trying to admit and absorb tenderness. Shivani!
Hello, I am so nervous. It's so great to see you all, and also some very bright lights. Thank you so much to Claire Cowan, my editor, and VoiceWorks, to VoiceWorks for accepting brown bisexual ghost content. Aunties don't ever get their noses out of your business. Even in the afterlife, at the very least, you'd think that the undead, unmarried 20-somethings would be left to themselves, free to premaritally frolic. But this isn't the case. Not when an auntie's assigned the same building as you. I've been speaking with the coordinator, and he keeps assuring me that I'll be moved to a new place next rotation. And then on the 6th of every month, I see that I'm still assigned to this cursed White Hills apartment. At most, I move a floor. The last thing I'd expected to see after dying was that heavy face with that mole jutting out from the left of her chin, brown cow eyes filling with so many tears that she was raising the end of her palu to blot them away. I hadn't seen Gauri Auntie for the last 5 years, but she'd been following along my life all that time and was more distraught than I was when I materialized in the White Hills reception. At first, I couldn't say anything. I only lay in the bottom of the indoor pool on the 2nd floor and refused to budge. It was Gauri Auntie who fended off the exasperated coordinator who came to tell me I had to spend at least some time at my assigned apartment and couldn't sit around letting people freestyle through me forever. For a few days, she sat next to me, quietly on the green glass mosaic pool tiles. But then even she grew tired and started to pester me about the importance of developing a routine for my spiritual advancement. According to Gauri, this was what the dead were left behind to achieve, and if we didn't pursue moksha, liberation from the cycle of birth and death, we would sooner or later be reborn, and there was no guarantee that our new bodies would be human. Do you want to sulk around and waste your time and then be reborn as a bat, Ashi? Or a chicken? Do you want to be a chicken 65? She asked with utmost seriousness, trying to shift my indifference with fear, but making me laugh instead. They send you to Kimberlake if you don't comply, you know? Can you imagine that? She huffed, furrowing her thick brows. Kimberlake was perfectly fine to me, but in Auntie Gauri's opinion, the demographic consisted of problematic and unruly characters, and she referred to it as the Uttam Nagar side of Melbourne. I did get out of the pool eventually, and my apathy did fall away, but unfortunately for Auntie Gauri, my motivation wasn't moksha. Instead, much to her horror, it was Vic. Vic, who knew the lyrics to every Mitski song and cried the first time she watched Kal Ho Na Ho, although there were no English subtitles. Slim-hipped, septum-pierced, pixie-cut, blonde-haired Vic, whose voice sounded like the veena being played, a low, deliberate trembling that sent pinpricks of warmth all over my skin. The first time I saw 2 girls kiss, I was 8. We were in a resort in Malappuram, and I was on a walk with my shoe-stealing cousin when I saw 2 foreigners' bodies wrapped around each other in a hammock, kissing the way I'd only seen white people do in movies. I stood transfixed, watching their soft curving and grabbing. My cousin's mouth hung open. She ran to Marcy and said, "Ma, we just saw 2 girls kiss." Marcy brushed it off, saying it must have been a man and a woman. Western men often grew long hair, so we must have been tricked. I got untricked when Kavya held my hand in PE later that year, and now I was being untricked by Vic. Last month, I was assigned to this plush business guy's apartment in 302. He barely came home, and when he did, he would just sit on his grey love seat and watch ASMR shaving videos. I brought Vic there a few days ago, and things got heated. I could feel the phantom of a purple minnow dart between her stomach and mine. That's when Auntie Gauri had to trespass. She later claimed she had a guided meditation and only wanted to join along to bring herself closer to moksha. But she'd been listening to Dana ASMR's Barber Shop ASMR, clipper, haircut, shaving, every week and had never before mistaken it for meditation. I figured one of the ladies in her kiddie party had leaked it. Ayurveda, she'd screeched when she saw Vic's forever lip-glossed hot girl summer body wrapped around me like that. Made the TV go static. Auntie Gauri couldn't do anything about it now, and I didn't care about reconciling, but I felt like Mama would have made me try to reconcile with her. So the next morning, I trudged up to Sealing's apartment in 4C. Sealing was browsing through fake Gucci sunglasses on Alibaba, and Auntie was floating over her, eyeing the cat-eyed white frames. When I coughed, she flew to the table and sat in Padmasana, inhaling and exhaling in sharp, short bursts, pretending she was doing Kapalabhati, and so I should leave her alone. I rolled my eyes and walked over. "I'm sorry," I said, not meaning it at all. "Sorry for what?" she asked, opening one eye, the other still shut, preserving the focus on inner peace. "I'm sorry that you saw that," I replied, half meaning it. The eye shut again, and breathing became shrill, vexed. "Look, I'm not going to apologize for kissing Vic. She's my girlfriend, and I've told you this several times." I felt my torso start to flicker faintly and turned to leave. "Chichi Ashi, shub shub bolo. Don't say girlfriend or anything, you're just confused now," she floated after me. My diaphragm was pulsing now, contracting with a pale green light that made me feel sick. "Ashima, remember when you were engaged to that handsome boy, Anil? Your death has just made you confused. It's understandable, so young, so much to look forward to, and for all of that to be taken away." I spun around, half of me a swirling olive, ready to bite back. "And before Anil? Before that, there was Hannah. Before that, Mira. Before that, Stephen. Before that, look. Clearly you don't understand how I am, how I've always been, and you know what? I don't care. We're dead now, okay? It's fine. It's fine, whatever we do. The total sum value of our actions is nil because we're nothing, okay? Your sin, your virtue, none of this exists without a body, and doing pranayama while snooping on me and judging me isn't bringing you any closer to moksha. Why don't you just live your own life instead of trying to police mine?" I spat. Ectoplasmic bile flew on the walls and on the floor. It dripped from Auntie's shocked face. I left. That night, I kissed Vic until my lips felt sore, and I felt golden and invincible. But later, when we were pretzeled around each other, eyes drooping, she saw sparks of blue in my ribs. "You're going to feel bad about this, aren't you?" she sighed, drawing gentle circles on my back, making me shiver. I shook my head. "Thank you."
Brown bisexual ghost content is VoiceWorks' other name. Okay, next up we have Stella Exton reading the poem Daylight Savings from Root. Stella can usually be found thinking about tattoo plans, tarot cards, guitars, and haircuts. They live and write on unceded Wurundjeri land. Stella.
I'm short. Greetings to Anita, my editor, who I've never met, so it really helped. At night, an hour slips away into God's pockets, and I wake gasping, convinced it's Monday, and have already proved with a sweaty sleep-in that I do not deserve to be here. A craving for French toast overtakes me, but I find an eggless fridge. Divine punishment, surely, for sleeping, for wanting, perhaps other outrageous activities too. The air is hot and pollen-struck, an October promise. I take a Zyrtec and mull over my tea. I need runs at dawn now to spring clean my head before the day's sins pile up. My knees and ankles protest, warn me that they'd like to shatter on the asphalt. Waking earlier won't change that, but Desperation for goodness eats at my nail beds. Boxing, I promise myself. In summer, I'll punch bags instead of shadows, get incredible shoulders, tattoo them with true things, like birds. I want to burn the eyes in my ribs, fill my chest with smoke, until my thoughts stop swarming in this heat like bees sent to sleep. I think the world is out of joint, and I am too, all seasonal change, growing pains, slipping back into old ways when we're allowed to. The parks overflow with prams and sneezy picnics. I stumble and sniff as I run, and I wonder what God does with the slice of time. Make sandwiches, maybe, melt it like cheese. Behind dirty dishes sits leftover pancake mix from a sibling's Sunday breakfast. Dad and I eat maple syrup-coated things and make small talk about his stereo project. While we eat, I forget how the day waits, long and heavy, and how soon I'll move towards summer like reluctant clockwork, unoiled and unfit for such long-lit days. I can't stop dreaming of burning myself down to hot ash and hay fever. I wish I had a stretch of coast or a forest where I could walk at dawn, footsteps like prayers, pretend to be a Mary Oliver. I'd hear kind, true things in the wind instead of the same old hymns. Your hands, holy, my friend's eyes, such quiet songs. A hesitant little feeling trots around in my mind under all the nerves. Time stretches out, gooey and warm. It promises me things, and I listen, smiling. It smells good, this melted hour. Maybe this could be the one. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stella. Okay, our last reader for the evening is Jean Verret, reading an excerpt from Flies, Mint Green and Zac Efron. Jean was actually at our last launch, the karaoke launch, and did some great renditions, so hopefully, I'm not actually going to ask you to do some karaoke. Anyway, Jean likes iced tea, fairy tales and mimicking voices. She tries to write anything and everything and dog ears pages like her grandfather. Thank you, Jean. I actually decided to sing Whitney Houston instead of doing this, so. Before I start, I would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation as the traditional landowners of our location. I pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and the Aboriginal elders of the other communities who may be here today. So this is my piece, Flies, Mint Green, and Zac Efron. I smashed the fly with the Palmer's cocoa butter. I'm not even sure it was a fly, but it was small, with wings, and had been buzzing around my room. Ugh. The fly buzzes past my slippers. It lands on my open notebook, right next to my budget. I'm not very good at budgeting, but this time it was important. Cranbourne Psychologist, $175-ish. The fly stands so still, unnatural, waiting, lucky. Before it can think about escaping, it sees the bottom of the bottle. There's a bit of splatter that could look like a dot over an eye. At the Brotherhood of St. Lawrence op shop, I buy a CD of Christmas music and the cast recording of Andrew Lloyd Webber's Love Never Dies. I think this is the one I don't have. Rach told me about how she watched Love Never Dies live, or did she just say she wanted to watch it live? A child is waddling around the shop. Lola Mommy, where are you? I'm here, nak. Dito lang ako. Today's sound is the chime of the video call on Facebook Messenger. And today's look is the top half of my grandma's face. Behind her are the mint green cupboards of her house in the Philippines. My grandma scribbled her address in my pink notebook once because I asked if I could see her handwriting. I'd lost a notebook somewhere in a box while moving house, but I remembered her house was white and had a vacant lot next to it. I knew it took only a few minutes to get from her place to SM, the big shopping center that people in the Philippines would call a mall. In the middle of a property law lecture, I found it. That's my grandma's house. I pointed at the Google Maps open on my screen. My friend, sitting next to me, nodded. It looks like there's an active line along the wall in the background, and I know it's the ants. They smell the iced tea that's always served at lunch, and the Coca-Cola always reserved for my grandma, and the pandesal that's ready every morning. The last time I was there, they smelled the donut holes I bought from Mr. Donut. The donut stand was next to the stand that sold Penoy, which Dad explained were duck eggs. You look so beautiful, Dalaga na. My grandma smiles on the screen, in the present. Ang ganda mo rin, Lola Mommy. I promise. I think that's how to say it. I lose my tongue sometimes. My grandma laughs, the movement pixelated and broken apart by bad internet. I tell her I miss her. I tell her I love her. She tells me the same thing. I go. Mom continues explaining to her why she can't just go outside anymore. Dad tells her she'll be fine. Everyone in the neighborhood knows who she is. Everyone in the neighborhood can help her get back home. I go to my room and I lie down, thinking and worrying for no reason. My chest hurts. I need to buy another diary. 2021, 2021, 2021, auto, Keji, week to view, data page. I have a Kiki K planner at home, but it's too big a brain to lug around everywhere. The planner is gray, so I'll take a small pink auto. It glitters when you look at it from the side. It has stickers like Babe and Girl Gang that add an element of vivacity and flirtation to my desperate need to organize. This is how I'd like my portable brain to look. Next to me is a woman, also looking at diaries and planners. Her long hair hangs around her face and swings under her chin as she analyzes the shelves. She doesn't seem to want to touch anything, but I have to touch everything. Mom doesn't do much online shopping, so she asks me to buy a book on dementia. I imagine that once it arrives, she will feel the thrill of opening the box and then want to learn herself. But I am the convenient personal shopper, so the thrill of the box is especially for me. I write it in a list of purchases, so I'm not surprised when a package arrives in 3 weeks' time. In a similar list is an entry on Medicare rebates and what is EFT to claimant. We're meant to close the veranda door every time we go out because nothing will stop the flies getting in. But one of us always forgets this, so now we have the fly swatter for execution. My eyes follow it, but it's darting around so fast I lose it in the kitchen. I can actually feel myself boiling over so much that I just have to let, "Can you come out, please? Lola Mommy wants to say hello." Okay. Are you okay? Quick lang. Okay. Hello, how are you? Hi, Lola Mommy, I'm good. How are you? I'm okay. Your hair is so beautiful and long. I used to have long hair like that. Do you have a boyfriend? No, not yet. I'm a bili, but that's okay. You're still so young. Are you studying? Graduated na po. What did you study? Arts. Do you have a boyfriend yet? Yes, one for every day of the week. Wow naman! When we stay at my grandma's house, my family sleeps in the one room. It's the one with the strongest air conditioner, and I have a vivid memory of watching the scene from High School Musical 2 where Troy Bolton sings "Bet on It," but I'm watching it in my head. The room was orange and black from the night's darkness and the nightlight in the corner. Mother Mary and Jesus watched us from the top of the TV. The bed was large and it dipped in the middle. Not much has changed in the 11 years it took us to finally come back. Except now, I'm thinking of Zac Efron in The Greatest Showman and wondering, why doesn't he do more musicals? I've lived an entire Zac Efron filmography before coming back. I may know his songs better than my grandma's house, but we'll see. Thank you. Thank you, Jean. Thank you to all of our readers. It was so amazing to hear your voices and and your inflections on these pieces that I have read many, many times, and I still love them. If there are any other writers who didn't read but would like to come and talk to me or get me to point them to their editor, if their editor is here, feel free. I'm a very nice person on large roller skates. Thank you so much again to Glenda, our Auslan interpreter. Thank you so much to Jessie, Jess and Magenta who organised all of this, especially given I sent the mag to print and then took a week of leave the week that the launch was, so just got a couple of Google Docs and that was my partake in this, and yeah, thank you again to all of you for coming. I repeat again, the card reader is working and we have some very mysterious packages, just beyond mystery. Can you take it? I don't know. Are you big enough? We're gonna move some of the chairs away so that there's more space for like dancing or singing to one another. The screen printing, I believe, is still happening. If you want to rush to Kmart or just, take off your shirt, again in a PG, child-safe manner. I think that's it. Thank you so much for coming. Lots of love.